I want somebody from your generation, to tell the whole group what they should know about your generation.
What if one conversation could change the way you see an entire generation? Retired teacher Betty Good is bringing seniors and young people together through her Calgary program, Good Links. Betty believes all generations have something valuable to teach each other, from life experience and wisdom to technology, new perspectives, and fresh ideas. She's taking that philosophy into workplaces, helping employees of different generations work together with greater understanding and respect.
Learning from each other, and the older generation has a lot of experience, and wisdom comes from experience. They've got a lot to teach the younger generation, and they've got a lot to learn. When you get to know somebody, really know somebody, it doesn't really matter what age you are.
Betty is on to something. The generation gap is about relationships. When we listen and we're curious, then we learn from each other.
Generation. Being open to other people's ideas. Like, don't have a fixed mindset. Just be open. Just because you've always done it this way doesn't mean there can't be another way to do it.
In this episode of Unison TV, we explore why intergenerational learning may be one of the most powerful ways to build stronger communities, healthier workplaces, and deeper human connections.
Right now, I have a roommate. She's from Japan. She's only here for a year. She's working. She's 25. And she usually in the evening will sit and talk for 10 or 15 minutes. And this morning, before she heads to work, she usually leaves about 9:30, and we were chatting for about 10 minutes. And she said to me, "You are my mom in Canada." And I totally get that. I said, well, it's hard to be far away from your mom, even though you can talk on the phone, you can FaceTime. But what she was telling me is that I'm a kind of a safety net in her life, because she has relationships at work. She has friendships outside of, like, she's just a roommate. I'm just renting her a room. But she struck up that relationship. Well, we did together, but she comes to me for advice. And I don't necessarily give her advice. I ask her questions so that she can figure it out on her own, because nobody wants to be told what to do.
What inspired you to first create Good Links?
Okay, well, before that, I had worked for 8 years with Linkages Society of Alberta. So when you think of link ages, they connected youth, teenagers, and they worked with junior high, high school students, and university students, and connected them with seniors, mainly in care centers, but we also worked in the community. So I worked with them and ran the school programs for 8 years. And then, like a lot of organizations experienced after COVID, the funding landscape changed. So by the end of 23, they needed to close their doors. But because I had programs going, like I was running, I think, 9 programs where we were taking students from either high school or junior high over to care centers or community centers. And I didn't want to end the programs because they're so valuable. Like, you see the relationships between the seniors and the youth developing, and then you're supposed to tell them, sorry, it's over. And so I decided, well, Linkages is closing, but the programs don't have to end. So we ended the ones that needed actual financial assistance from Linkages, because I didn't have funding for that. But the ones that didn't need direct funding, that they could support themselves, like the ones where the students could walk to the care centers or could walk to a community center, and then at the community center we get the older adults that are living independently, so they didn't need financial assistance. Those are the ones I kept going. And in order to do that, I created my own social enterprise called Good Links.
Does anyone pay anything to take part, or how does that work?
No, no, nobody pays. It's all, that's well, I was going to say that's the problem. And that's the beauty too. It's the beauty for them. I guess it could be a problem for me. Social enterprise, I'm not a nonprofit, so I can't apply for funding, but I continue to do training and consulting. Somebody found me online and from Vancouver Island, actually, and they run a nonprofit and they have a lot of volunteers. And so they have a mix of young people who are on staff and older adults who are volunteering. And they contacted me and said, could I come and do some training with them so that they could learn how to work together? So it's the intergenerational workplace, which is probably in every organization. So even though my clubs, my intergenerational clubs that I facilitate or support, they are with nonprofits usually. But workplace culture, that's anybody. So I'm really excited. I'm doing that workshop for them. Oh, in a couple of weeks. So I'm doing that, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited about planning that and delivering that, and then hopefully more workplaces will kind of recruit me.
Well, I think that's
Yeah,
something every workplace could do
I
with.
I agree.
Hmm.
I agree. And they need to realize the benefits, like and how to overcome challenges and stereotypes.
That's an interesting thing you mentioned because, we've heard the term unprecedented gets used a lot, but I would be fair to say, I think it's fair to say that we are in unprecedented times between the gaps in generations now, just
Yeah,
because of the technology that's out there in AI. And I don't think we've ever had these kind of gaps between, say, I hate to put labels on, but between boomers and Generation X and Alpha now. I mean, it's just so vastly different and will continue to get more so. What are some of the items you make people aware of?
First of all, following up on what you said, the gaps, and also people are not retiring when they turn 60 or 65. Like, look at me. I'm not retired and I could be. So people are working longer. And so everybody in the workplace has to learn how to get together and how to appreciate each other. So now say your question again. What are the
Oh, I'm
challenges?
just looking at, yeah, what are some of the things? There's so many things I'm thinking just off the top of my head. You can talk about technology, you can talk about mentorship, you can talk about what each
Yeah,
generation can offer, or some of the drawbacks each generation has. I can think of a few of those that the
yeah.
younger and older may have. And yeah.
Well, when I'm thinking of the workshop, because I've been working on that, the workshop that I'll be delivering, I'm thinking as a baby boomer, if we are not 15 minutes early to a meeting, we're late. And having worked with, like when I was at Linkages, 90% of my coworkers were in their 20s. And so if work started at like our hours were 9 to 4:30. So I usually got to work at 8:45, put my lunch in all that. And I was at my desk working by 9. And at 9 o'clock, a car would pull into the parking lot with the younger people that were working. They arrived at 9. And so that's one difference. That's one difference. And is one right and one wrong? I'm not sure. I think what I want to have people take away from this workshop is how to respect each other, how to accept the differences and actually appreciate the differences. And there's a book that I read, it's called Wisdom at Work by Chip Conley. And um, he talks about he talks about mentorns because imagine interns that are younger, and then there's mentors, but they're mutual mentors because we can learn from each other. So he called himself a mentor. Yeah. And so, yeah, so that's just one thing. And then also being open, being open to other people's ideas. Like, don't have a fixed mindset. Just be open. Just because you've always done it this way doesn't mean there can't be another way to do it. And dispel stereotypes. And I'm thinking, when you get to know somebody, really know somebody, it doesn't really matter what age you are. I have a friend who's 40 years younger. We don't think about our age when we get together. We're just good friends. And so because I know her, I'm not judging her because she's doing a certain thing. When you're friends, you accept each other. And that's what I want the participants in my workshop I want them to learn how to get to know each other and develop relationships, and then they can work together.
Before we move on to my next question, I'd like to talk more about what you mentioned, the time, for example, the work ethic. Are there
Yeah.
other differences you've noticed? And I group time when you arrive as work ethic, but are there other differences you might notice?
I think some older people think they should be respected because of age. And I don't know if that's a determinant if that's a reason for respect. I think older people have to respect younger people.
Respect is earned,
Yeah.
not just
Yeah.
not based on
Yeah.
seniority, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and also when some people my age, they think they're too old to learn anything new. And they're not. But it's it's their mindset. So if they develop a relationship with somebody, and if you mentioned technology, so if they develop a relationship with a younger person who's really good at technology, you can learn. Don't, I have a friend who she refuses to do anything with computers. And I love her. She's a really good friend, and I accept her that way. But if you're in a workplace, you shouldn't have that mindset, because if you're working with computers, and even if you're not, you can still learn something. Yeah, and everybody has a phone, and there's always something. Like, open your mind to learning. And okay, I just thought of another thing. People in my generation, they were so independent, so hardworking, they didn't ask for help. They're finding it, I should say we're finding it really hard to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask younger people for help. How are they going to learn how to serve and how to help others if we don't learn how to receive that?
That's an excellent point. Because I fall into that same category. I'm like, well, I'll figure it out. And
Yeah,
maybe even more so now because AI is out there, so I can just plug in a question to Chat GPT and it'll say,
yeah.
well, what do I do? But I'm very leery to actually reach out for help.
Mm-hmm.
But that's part of working in a team too, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
people feel good when they can help others.
Yes, everybody
Yeah,
goes away happy.
yeah,
That's people, yeah. When you
yeah,
give that person a chance to help, they go away feeling
yeah,
better and more useful, more confident when they've been able to help somebody.
totally. And it develops your self-esteem, right?
Right. What are some other differences you come across when it comes to older versus younger generations. Whereas I think there's this thought that they're more into quality of life and not working every second of the day and taking time to, and who's to say who's right or wrong with that, because I think we came from generations that were very much more into work, and now you see that they're more into enjoying life. Do you see some of that?
Yeah. That's a really, really good point, because I think the younger generation focus more on values and meaning. Like, a lot of them don't want to take a job because it's not meaningful, even though my thinking is, you know what, when you're starting out, you have to take what you get, because you're just starting out. You can't, it's kind of like after you've worked someplace for 2 months and you ask a raise. No. When young people are choosing careers and working their way towards a career, they want careers with meanings. They want jobs where there's a meaning. And also, when you say balance, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this lately, because things on the news about 4-day week and working at home and hybrid and all that. And I'm thinking, you know what? If you have a job, you get paid for the hours that you are there. But do you actually work 8 hours a day when you're at the job site? When I was at linkages or other jobs, we often sat and chatted. And to me, there was nothing wrong with that, because you're building relationships with your coworkers, which in the end benefit your team, but you're not working on your tasks 8 hours a day. And so my thinking is, for example, I'm working on a project right now for another nonprofit, and she asked me, how many hours do you think it'll take to do this? And she and we trust each other. And I said, I really don't want to, I don't know how many hours. I don't keep track of hours. I said, you know me well enough. You're giving me this job. I will do a good job, regardless of how long it takes me. And I trust you. You have a line in your budget for your staff. I trust you that you will pay me what for the job, and I will be happy with that. And we agreed to that. And so I think, okay, I am not putting in 40 hours to finish this project. I am working on this project whenever I can, or whenever I will work on it, make sure that the result is a good one, and she will pay me for that. And so some workplaces, do they have to kind of convert to that? Like, pay them for the job that they're doing, not for the hours that they're sitting in the chair. It's interesting.
Definitely different ways to
So,
look at
yeah,
that.
but you wouldn't hear most baby boomers say that. No, you have to be at work for, I'm paying you. You get here at 8 o'clock and you work till 5 and you have half an hour for lunch, that kind of thing. Where the other thing with AI, and I'm sure you've heard this too, and it's not just younger people, some older people are starting to really depend on it, but if young people depend on it so much, where are they learning how to think? So by the two generations connecting and working, since we're talking about workplace, by working together, they are actually learning from each other. And the older generation has a lot of experience, and wisdom comes from experience. They've got a lot to teach the younger generation, and they've got a lot to learn. By the two generations connecting and working, since we're talking about workplace, by working together, they are actually learning from each other. And the older generation has a lot of experience, and wisdom comes from experience. They've got a lot to teach the younger generation, and they've got a lot to learn. And it it happens every year when I get feedback from the participants. There are not just one, but there's a few of the older adults that say, after getting to know these young people and gaining different perspective, I'm not so worried about the future of our country anymore or our world. So, because they've gotten to know that young people aren't all bad eggs, right? And they've gotten to know them and understand them and learn from them. And so they've gained respect and trust and confidence that when these young people go out into the world will be a better place. How amazing is that?
Absolutely, absolutely to hear something like that, because I'm sure we've all heard a story about, and this has been something since, the beginning of time. Oh, this new generation, they're
Yeah,
lazy, or what do
yeah,
they know and whatnot. And it's even more pronounced now, I guess, as you said, with AI, that it's just so easy to get an answer from there, or to have your work done by AI.
yeah.
But to hear that, I gained a new perspective, right? That's a huge, I would suspect, part of this intergenerational training.
Mm-hmm.
What are you
Oh,
seeing that young people are getting out of it?
they, so again, from the feedback, they are learning what life was like for in the previous years. And if you can learn from older people what their lives were like compared to what they are now, it just it broadens your what perception of what your life is like now. And you realize that, some things were harder. Some things might have been easier because they didn't have social media, and so they're learning from that. And often when in our clubs, we'll have the the older adults say, what advice would you give to the younger people? And they do. They have great advice. And the young people, it gives them things to think about. And you have to remember the young people that apply to be in our clubs, they're, I wouldn't say they're exceptional, but they're really good kids. One grade 12 student said, I thought I was coming to do something nice for the older people, and I was volunteering, and volunteering is always a good thing, and I was giving, but what she said was, I got way more than I gave. I didn't feel like I was volunteering, and I didn't feel like I was giving. They developed a relationship. Yeah.
Love that. In terms of the workplace, the training that you're doing, what is the value, both for the employer and the employees? First of all, for the employer, why is it important to have intergenerational training?
Well, it creates a good team. And when you have a team that can work together, if you're looking for production and results, the production will be higher and the results of what you're producing. And when a team works together, I mean, we've all heard we're better together and we're stronger together. Yeah. And for the employees, if there's tension, like I've had hundreds of jobs, and if there's tensions in the workplace, you don't want to go to work. You don't want to go to work, and you don't want to work with this one certain person, and you've got all this negative crap in your mind. And if you focus on negative stuff, how can you be a positive influence or even develop good work? So, and you've probably heard this too. People don't quit their jobs, they quit their bosses. Well, or people that they work with. So if you don't get along with the people that you work with, it's no fun and you're going to leave. And so probably for employers, there's longevity for your employees. And also for both generations or all generations, because a workplace has all the decades represented, I'm sure. For all of them, you're learning great relationship skills, communication skills, problem solving skills, conflict, how to resolve conflict. You're learning so many skills that will benefit you in your own personal relationships and your relationships with your kids and your marriage, anything. Like it's just good all around.
I like those points you made about, being in a difficult working environment, because I can think of previous jobs where there was resentment between people of different
Oh,
generations. One where one would think the other one was entitled or a slacker, and the other one would look at the other one and say, oh, well, they just don't want to change. They don't want to change with the times. They're stuck in this way of doing things. Are you
yeah.
able to find like common grounds between them, or to let them be able to see each other's point of views in those cases? Or teach them how
Well,
to see different
what
points of view?
what my plan for this workshop that I'm doing is I will have one person from an older adult and a youth or a younger person. They have to find somebody from the other generation, and I'm going to give them 1 or 2 minutes, and they have to learn something about the other person. And so they have to talk to each other, and they have to listen to each other, and they have to learn something. And then I'm going to ask them to find something that they have in common. And they will. They will. And so that's how a relationship starts, isn't it? When you're listening to the other person and you find things in common.
That can be applied to so many things in this polarized world that we're in. And I think part of the problem is we're not listening to each other. We're just kind of waiting for our turn to speak. But when you just sit down and listen to somebody, I mean, this is one of the greatest skills you can enhance in people, is just their listening skills, right?
Oh, totally, totally. If you translate that to a workplace, it reminds me of, I used to teach school. In my first few years of teaching, I was early 20s, and there was this woman who was in her 50s. So to me, she was old, right? And so, but she and I became good friends, good coworkers, but we were friends at work. And I used to say to her, I still remember her name. I used to say to her, you know what, you're my personal assistant. You're my personal consultant, because I could talk to her about anything. And she was a good listener. And I don't even remember any details. I just remember the relationship and the emotions, like the feeling. People don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And so I just remembered how much she listened to me and cared about me. And if you can develop that in a work relationship, really, if there's a conflict and you have a good relationship, you can talk about it and resolve it together.
Wow, it's amazing that you've taken that nugget of knowledge that you had in your 20s, and you probably 22-year-old self wouldn't have had a clue that you'd be using this now.
No, no. And I hadn't thought of that relationship until just now.
Ah,
Yeah.
I think it's been in the back of your head subconsciously
Oh,
because that's what you're teaching, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we all have things to learn,
Yeah.
and from each other.